Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here today continuing with my discussion on Moses and some of the things we can learn from his life. Today I want to read in chapter 19, just a few verses, beginning with verse 16. But before I read that, I just want to set the context for this time. Moses has gotten the people of Israel to Mount Sinai, where God lives, at least in that sense of the word. And there've been some back and forth and having some struggles with the people. And Moses even called them a stiff-necked people. They were pretty hard to deal with. And you and I have similar situations where sometimes we have to deal with some stiff-necked people. In fact, sometimes we're stiff-necked people. But this is the story here towards the end of this time together with God on the mountain. And here's what it says, verse 16 of chapter 19. On the morning of the third day, thunder roared and lightning flashed, and a dense cloud came down over the mountain. There was a long, loud blast from a ram's horn, and all the people trembled. Moses led them out from the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. All of Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord had descended on it in the form of fire. The smoke billowed into the sky like smoke from a brick kiln, and the whole mountain shook violently. As the blast of the ram's horn grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God thundered his reply. The Lord came down from the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to come up to the top. So Moses climbed the mountain. This scene here really would have been scary. I mean, it talks about the mountain covered in smoke, the mountain trembling. Uh, it gives you I guess it's like a sci-fi picture of the end of the world. Uh, something really huge was going on here. Now, the people think it's huge something physical because the mountain is about, I don't know, erupt, destroy. It wasn't a volcano per se, but they don't know what to do. And I guess many people today are like the Hebrews. When they get in God's presence or get close to it, they don't know what to do. So, had you been back there in the crowd in this day, what do you think you would have done? Would you have said, "Oh boy, we're going to get to meet God now. This is going to be fantastic"? Or would you have said something like, "Oh wow, what's going to happen now"? And would you have been scared? Or would you have been thrilled at the possibilities of the future? Well, I think all human emotions were expressed at this moment. And Moses, he's the intermediary, if you will. He's the only one that God's talked to directly. And all this commotion is happening below him. And it says here in the end of this, let me read it again. As the blast of the ram's horn grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God thundered his reply. Now, we don't know what Moses said, and we don't know what God's reply was. It would be interesting if the scriptures told us that, but it doesn't. And sometimes when we're talking to God, we don't really know what we're saying. And sometimes we don't really understand his response either. But in the midst of this, now this is where it comes down to you and me, I think. In the midst of all of this happening stuff, it says that God came down from the top of the mountain. Not quite sure what that looked like. And he called Moses to go with him back to the top of the mountain. You see, God spoke to Moses, and he had something special for him. And God speaks to you and me because he has something special for us. In this case, God's about to reveal the Ten Commandments, the stone tablets. In our case, it's something maybe less dramatic, but it's still the same. God calls us up to be in his presence. The question is, what are we going to do when that happens? Well, Moses gives us the right example. It says here, and Moses climbed the mountain. I don't know if Moses thought something good was going to happen, or if he thought something bad was going to happen, or if he was just totally clueless as to what was going to happen. But the point is, he heeded God's call and he climbed the mountain. Now, for you and I, God doesn't come with this kind of drama. At least he hasn't in my life. And actually, I don't know of anybody who would describe God speaking to them using this kind of scenery, but maybe it has happened. But God does call us. He speaks to our hearts. He speaks to our mind. And he says, I want to talk to you. Come on up to the top of the mountain with me. Do we take the time to go and listen to God? Now it says that Moses did, and more of the story, which I'll get to in the next day or two, is a result of what God said when he was up there. If we don't listen to God and respond to his voice, then we have no idea what he wants from us. If we don't take the time in our busy day to sit and listen, listen with our ears, listen with our minds, listen with our hearts. If we don't take the time to listen, whatever the excuse is, we're too busy, it's too noisy, I can't get away, I got deadlines, I'm tired, whatever the excuse is, if we don't take the time to listen to God, we will never know what he wants for our lives. Moses took the time and he climbed up the mountain to listen to God. So I invite you today to make time, morning, evening, middle of the day, whatever, but make the time to listen to God speaking to you. If you'll take the time, you'll hear him speak. Well, you think about that. Thanks for listening. If we can help you in any way, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. I'll be back tomorrow. I've got a couple more days here to talk about this fellow named Moses. I hope you'll join me. God bless you. I'll talk to you again.